Thank you so much for joining us, all my friends and family here in the room. I am Jason, your cruise host, and welcome to another edition of All Access Pass Live. For those of you here, if you're watching in the room, welcome. If you're watching back in your rooms, thanks for tuning in. Today, I am joined by two members of one of the most legendary groups of all time. Let's hear it for Tony and Peter of the Hollies. Let's start with some really easy ones.
Okay.
We'll start simple. I'm going to start with you, Peter, actually, because, well, you're the rookie of the two of you.
I'm the baby. I'm the baby of the Hollies.
When did you join the Hollies, sir?
2004.
2004.
Yeah.
And what were you doing up to that, and what was it like to get the call to come be a part of a legendary group?
We couldn't go into what I was doing before. There's nothing bad. It's nothing
Gotcha.
bad. It's just there was a lot of different things I was doing.
Understood.
So rather than bore you with that, I'll just tell you that when I got the call, I actually got the call a bit earlier, actually, because Ian, the keyboard player, phoned me up. I think very first was when Alan decided to leave or decided to retire. I got the call then, but I couldn't do it. Then I was doing something else. And then Carl Wayne stepped in, and then I got the call in 2004, and I said, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I was very excited, but my brother was even more excited because he still is a massive Hollies fan.
And does it create more animosity between you now that you are a Holly?
My brother, no, he's very proud. He's always been
awesome.
very proud. Yeah.
I heard it slightly differently than that. I heard he said to the person who recommended Peter to us, "Do I really want to get involved with these guys?"
That's so not true. So not true. I just said, "Are they still alive?"
Yeah, are they still alive? That's fair.
That's a song of ours.
I heard about those guys. And Tony, obviously, you started in 1963. Is that correct?
Yeah.
63.
Yeah.
Next year is 60 years as a Holly.
Wow, is that all?
Started when you were 4, obviously. Yeah, started. Tell us a little bit about the early 60s and how the band kind of came together and how you guys figured out what you were doing.
Well, I was invited to join the Hollies. They were non-recording. It was just Alan and Graham and things. And for quite a while, I was quite happy just being a semi-pro. So I said no. But eventually, I went on the Ribble bus to Manchester to see them. They were in I think a place called the Twisted Wheel, and it was in a basement. And it's funny because our club that we used to go to, I went in there, and it's a club that if it was really packed, there'd be about 200 people in there. And it was a manageress, and I went down there, and I thought, yeah, you're doing busy tonight. It's down a lot of people in it. She said, yeah, it's that new lot from Liverpool. Down, and it was the Beatles in there. So I said, some lot called the Hollies want me to get involved. What do you think? Are they any good? Will they make it? And she said, well, yeah, they're pretty good, and they could do. So as it happens, the Twisted Wheel was just further down that road and in a basement. So I actually, for a while, when they came on, I stood outside at an air vent. I thought, I'll just have a listen and probably end up going home anyway. But I went down there and started chatting to Graham, who's very open. He was great. And cut a long story short, I stopped my job. I was an apprentice electrician. And I joined the Hollies. We did gigs until we eventually got an audition at the Abbey Road recording studios. We went in there for 2 hours, I think, recorded 2 songs. And they released them. One was an old Coaster song called Just Like Me. And it made some things, I don't know, 10, 20s, 30s. And it went on from there. But in those days, if you had hit records, I mean, you'd have a hit record and then the follow would be just very similar to the one you'd had a hit with anyway. And you didn't last for long, you know. So we were really enjoying this, going out to London, to Abbey Road Studios, and, you know, we'd finish at 10 o'clock, so go down to all the clubs in the King's Road and in Soho. No, not those sort of clubs. There were some of those as well. And we really enjoyed it, and our thoughts was, you know, if we can drag this out maybe for, you know, 2 or 3 years, won't that be great? And we did do.
2 or 3 years. That was the initial goal.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
now you're sitting on about 60.
Yeah, but it still feels good.
It should feel good. I was reading something that said the Hollies and the Stones are two of the only bands in the world that never broke apart and did their own thing. The Hollies and the Stones stayed together, recorded together as a band for all this time. That's a pretty cool.
It's nice, but in fact, in the early days when we all performed in ballrooms and small theatres and things, we did quite a lot of tours around. It was like the Hollies and the Rolling Stones and sometimes the Kinks, and it was really fun days. Brian Jones, the late Brian Jones, used to travel with us quite often. Obviously, there was some friction early days, but he was a lovely bloke. Very, very sad to see him go. Great days, great fun.
We'll probably leave the stories at there because I'm sure there's some that would wow even this seasoned audience.
You're right.
You said in the beginning 2 to 3 years, and you thought, wow, this would be good. Was there a point when you recognized, wow, this is something big. This is going to take off?
Yes, but you never know. Any of those records that were successful, you never believe it until you actually see them up there in the charts, because nobody knows. I mean, for instance, the record that did so well for us, Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress, we recorded it at Abbey Road. And nobody thought it was any big deal at the time until our American head of CBS Records, they called one day and said, look, we've heard the album you recorded and there's one on there, we think it might be a shot as a single. So I said, yeah, go for it, and it did. It's one of the most important recordings that we ever made, which thank you. But you see, it's very interesting, but because nobody actually saw the real potential of it, that's the beauty of it, because we left it just with a solo voice, just basic guitar and drums. If our record producer had seen potential in it, he would have said, well, right, you're the Hollies. We need to get some harmonies on there, and we need to do this and that would have ruined it. So we got lucky with that, really.
We got lucky with that. What do you mean you got lucky with it? So one of the things I like to do, gentlemen, is I love our audience to feel like they can be a part of the show, because I think that's important. They were here to interact with you. So my wife goes around before we start, and she lets people write questions on cards. So I would like to ask you some questions from the audience, if you'd be so kind.
Dangerous.
Yeah. Uh-oh, big time. Someone's calling in with a question right now, matter of fact.
It's Graham.
Yeah, he heard his name. It's Graham. Ian is now living in Israel via Manchester. As a former Manchesterian myself, how do you feel about Manchester now after leaving so many years ago? And they want to add, side note before you answer, they came from Israel because you guys are here.
Wow. Oh, thank you for that. Wow. I'm not a Mancunian anyway. I'm from further north, a place called Nelson. There's Nelson and Burnley and things, Burnley football team. I probably wouldn't recognise it now, because the only time I go to Manchester is when we do the theatre there, the Lowry, which is outside of the city centre. And most city centres these days you're going to, I wouldn't recognise them, sadly.
Which is fair.
Very fond memories of them, though. All the clubs, there was the Shea New and the Three Fountains, and I'm trying to think of
the Oasis.
No, that's the one where the Beatles were that night. The Oasis, absolutely, great. Where?
The Wheel.
Twisted Wheel.
Yeah.
Twisted Wheel. See.
Would you like to come up and be a part of it? No. Peggy comes to us all the way from Georgia. Graham and Alan have talked about meeting their idols, the Everly Brothers. Bobby talks about meeting some of his favorite jazz guests. Who influenced both of you, and did you ever get to meet them?
Well, Peter, have a go.
Oh, have a go.
As mad as it sounds, a lot of people influenced me in many, many different ways. Guitarists that I've admired and loved, as I was growing up, I've met. I first was in love with the Shadows. I fell in love with the Shadows, and I got to meet Hank Marvin And also,
Very cool.
funnily enough, when I was younger, I remember hearing Cliff Richard, because I saw Cliff Richard in the Shadows, and when he started doing Devil Woman and he recorded Green Light and a lot of those albums, I was at about maybe 13, 14, 15, and I was very taken with this kind of direction that he was taking. I did get a little bit very much involved in like listening to Cliff. I listened to Deep Purple and lots of other stuff, lots of rock stuff I used to love. But I did like a lot of Cliff stuff. I'm not unashamed to say. And I did manage to work with him. I worked with him for quite a while. So I did meet him. And I've met a few people that along the journey that obviously the Hollies as well. You know, Air That I Breathe is one of the classic guitar intros of. I remember hearing that and going, blimey, you know, it blew me away. So I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of people along my journey. Steve Lukather was one guy I got to meet, and Don Henley. I mean, I bumped into a lot of people. I'm not saying I've had dinner with these guys, but I've been bumped into a lot of people who said, "Wow!" And it is great when you see people that you admire. And usually, for me, the rule is that usually the better somebody is, or the more I think they're a complete genius, the more humble they seem to be, which is always lovely.
I mean, I'm sitting next to two very humble gentlemen, so yes, you're exactly right. Tony, go ahead. Early influences for you, and did you ever have the chance to meet or work with them?
Well, you mentioned the Everly Brothers, and indeed, we were in London, and word got back to us that the Everly Brothers wanted to meet us and know if we had any songs, and we ended up. Literally the next day, we sang songs and they said, yeah, we like that, we like that, we like that. And we went into the Decca recording studios, I think it was, and recorded these songs. And it's interesting, it came out as two Yanks in England, but the backing musicians were basically the Everly Brothers, myself, and Led Zeppelin before Led Zeppelin. It was before they existed because Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones, they were session players, Yeah. And so it's an interesting... It's interesting, I'd play a bit of a thing, and Jimmy Page to say, play it and things, and he'd say, oh yeah, it's nice and thing. I said, no, you better leave that to me, Jimmy. It's
I'll take that. I'll handle that. Have a seat, son. I'll handle this.
Yeah.
John wants to know the name Hollies. Anything to do with Buddy Holly?
Well, great fans of Buddy Holly again. I've never really known. I should find out one of these days.
It's only been 60 years, Tony. I'm sure you have time.
Christmas has been mentioned, but no, I don't know. You need Graham for that.
Fair enough. Arlene comes to us from Houston. Backing up the earlier comment, Long Dark Road was a big U.S. hit. Why don't you guys play it more?
Well, because if it was a hit in America, it wasn't elsewhere. It was an album track that was released. Certainly enjoyed doing it, but I mean, I doubt you've probably never even heard of it, have you?
I thought you got the title wrong. I think Long Cool One, surely. I've not heard Long Dark Road. It sounds very depressing.
We just don't. There's a lot of songs that we don't do, and that's what was one of them.
Works for me.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a great one. After playing, this is specifically for you, sir. After playing these same songs for 55 plus years straight, how do you keep it so fresh and get so excited to still do it?
Well, we do, but we sort of change them around occasionally just to challenge it ourselves. I mean, off the top of my head tonight, we'll be doing On a Carousel, but it's completely different than the recorded version because it keeps us on our toes. What else?
No, I think I can jump in here, and it's not just about playing the same songs every night. I've noticed when I first joined the Hollies, the one thing that keeps me here and also reminds me of why we do it is because, and I've done gigs where you do songs and you do them again and again and again, but when you do them for so long, for many, many years, it's not the song that the great songs is always a bonus, but the main reason you're there is to perform and get, as Bob used to say, when he comes down at the front of the stage, after the end of the gig when everybody's applauding, he'll go, look at this, look at all this, this is our reward. And I know that both Tony and Bob, that is the main reason. They don't have to come out and play music every year. They probably lots of lovely things to do, but it's an addiction. That is an addiction that you can't buy that feeling anywhere else. And I think having that appreciation of that, realizing what that is, You can't do it without the audience. It's something you can't manufacture. You could get 1,000 people in a room, pay them 50 quid each to applaud you after you've sung something. It doesn't work like that. You earn it, and that's when you do that, you get that buzz back. And I think that is what keeps the person fresh, is how much they appreciate actually what they do and love what they do. And I think both Tony and Bob, and all of us do, we have a great time when we go on tour because we have that joy of playing. We just enjoy it. And we've got the added boldness of having some great songs to sing with it. I mean, if you're in a band, you've got some really bad songs that you don't like. It's still doable. It's still doable, but it's more enjoyable when you've got great songs in the locker.
Do you get butterflies still at all? Do you get anxious or nervous before you play, or does it feel?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm nervous now coming in here.
Yeah.
But yes, they do say you have to have that.
I think it's the fear of messing it all up.
Sure.
Or just going on there and forgetting what you're doing, and just go, I don't know this.
I take that also, though, as a huge testament to your connection to your fans. Because if you didn't care, you wouldn't be nervous. If you didn't care what they thought or their perception, you wouldn't be nervous. But to your point, Peter, you're performing for this crowd. You're performing for the people that love you.
That's right.
So, of course, there's going to be some nerves there.
There's always nerves there, but the more somebody enjoys it, the more you enjoy it, and you get this thing going off. We've all done gigs where you go out and somebody said to me, what's the worst audience you've played to? And the worst audience is any audience that hasn't paid to see you. That is you have guys. It's not like that is the worst audience because they're not invested. But when people come to the gigs that we do, they book their tickets. They want to come see us, and before you go out on stage, they don't want you to be rubbish. They want you to be good.
Sure.
So as long as you don't drop the ball, you're gonna have a good night. But if you've got an audience and everybody's being quiet and nobody's you think, are we doing okay? Is it all right? Is the mic on? When you get like an excited audience, and some venues are great like that. Sure. Glasgow's great like that, isn't it? Go out in Glasgow, and that hall just goes bang. It's just an amazing place to play for that reason. That everything seems alive because the hall's alive. There's lots of aspects to it.
Sure.
When Peter first joined, and he was possibly struggling on a couple of the lyrics and things, and he'd look at me. And after the gig, I had to say, look, if you're looking for lyrics, don't look at me. I just mumble along. Which it's sad. You'll hear. I do, honestly. I just don't know it.
Well, there's the story with that, because there's one song, I think it's like Stop, Stop, Stop. There's a lot of lyrics, and I'm learning all the stuff. And we've got, obviously, regular fans that come to see, and this is my first few gigs. And again, I'm looking at Tony, I don't know the words, right? And I'm doing Stop, Stop, Stop. And after I came out of the backstage, there's a couple of ladies there. She went, oh, you forgot the words, and you forgot those, didn't you? And I went, yeah, I did forget the words. And the next night, this lady, or a few nights later, these two ladies are on the front row, right? And I stop, I think, oh, what's the first word? I knew what's pointless asking Tony, because he won't know. So I said to these two women, they're down, I said, what's the first line for this song? What's the first line? And they were sat there, what? I said, what's the first line for this song? They went, I don't know. Right? And afterwards, I went out to them, I said, how dare you have a go at me? I said, I've been doing this, I've done it 3 times. You've been coming for the last 45 years, and you don't know the words. It's true. Very true story.
How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you?
Have a go at me.
Joanne from Kansas City, how do you compare the music of today to the music you grew up with in the 60s, Tony?
I love the songs of, for instance, Coldplay. I like, songs with a verse, a mid, late, and a chorus. And what's that, Higher Power? They've got one called. I just love that song. Yeah, and I don't understand a lot of the other rapping stuff that goes on. I wish I did, but I don't. Do you rap?
No, not. What day is it?
Thursday.
No, never on a Thursday. Never on a Thursday. I liked some of it. I liked Eminem. Not Eminem, Eminem, whoever it is, Eminem. I quite like some of his stuff when it came out, but a lot of it I don't get. I think it's a culture thing that, and I wouldn't listen to it in the car. You don't listen to it when I'm just vibing in the morning. I wouldn't do that. I listen to very old music, really. I have about 5 albums that I listen to on rotation for about the last 40 years. That's it. I like my comfort zones with music. Tony's
Worn out
listened to-
albums.
Huh?
With worn out albums at this point.
Oh, definitely worn them out. Yeah, absolutely, again and again.
Do you care sharing what your favorites were from back then?
For me, it's always my go-to is a lot of Steely Dan.
Steely Dan.
Yeah, Steely Dan and Jackson Brown.
Jackson Brown.
Yeah. Johnny Mitchell.
Oh, nice.
You know that kind of
And that
Ry
vibe,
Cooder.
yeah.
Ry Cooder.
Oh, yeah.
You love Ry Cooder. David Lindley again. But yeah, there's a few albums that I love.
Tony, what about you, sir?
Well, the Steely Dan, obviously, they've got everything. The great songs, jazz influenced, and great musicians, you know. I did see them in Los Angeles many years ago and doing Do It Again and all that. Yeah. And it shook me. They were so fantastic with Jeff Baxter. Was it? Well, lots of guitarists had, but
Few went through there, yeah.
He was doing it that night, and they used a guitar sitar, which is something I use actually, and I just they used that guitar sitar on a lot of things. What was I'm saying, deliver, I'm yours, down, 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 but down. You don't know it, do you? No, neither do we.
No.
It's because you mumbled the words. I didn't know it. Yeah.
I just mumble.
Emma comes to us from Wisconsin. Do you, Tony, keep in touch with other original members, Alan, Bernie, Terry? How are they if you do?
Well, Graham and Alan particularly. Graham's in New York these days, but Bernie, I haven't seen him for years, or Terry. No reason why not, but it just hasn't happened. But people, when they leave the group, they're never tempted to sort of come and see how it is without them.
Of course.
Well, no, it's just true, and so, I mean, you know, they'd be well, it'd be nice to see them, but...
Wendy comes to us from Long Island. What would you tell, I've learned to pronounce the G in that, by the way, over time. Wendy says, what would you tell, if you could, your younger self today, if you could go back and tell your younger self something?
What?
What would you go back in time? What would you go back in time and tell your younger self with what you know now?
That's one for Peter, I think.
Yeah.
What, me? What?
Yeah, you've been nominated, Peter.
I have no idea.
What advice would you give young Peter if you could?
God. I've really no idea.
That's fine. You don't have to.
Well,
Maybe young Peter had it dialed in. He doesn't need any advice.
It is so different because we kind of learned our trade as a hobby. You know, I used to finish my electricianing sort of Friday afternoon and then drive off to Manchester or Liverpool and do what I really enjoyed doing, you know. So, I mean, what I've ended up doing is made a career out of my hobby, really, which lasted longer than 3 years.
Luckily. Debbie, how does it feel to still be this popular? Not to mention that you're the longevity. How does it feel to be this popular still today?
Surprising. Well, it's flattery. I mean, it's as Peter says, you know, when you get on a stage, and there's not many people can get the feeling like an artist does. If I can refer to myself as one.
I think you can refer to yourself as an artist, sir.
That feeling of when you've done a concert show that you're happy with and you're sort of driving away from there or whatever it is, it's such a great feeling of satisfaction that it's a rare commodity. Is it not?
Absolutely. I'm still pondering that question. It sort of made me think. I'm thinking, what to say to myself.
You're pondering the last question.
Yeah, no, because I'm not often lost for words, and that kind of just stumped me a little bit. And I honestly think I would have probably say to myself, just be a little braver, believe in yourself a little bit more.
That's a great.
You know, because sometimes you can be, we can be unconfident as music artists. You write a song or something, you think, well, that's not that good, you know. And but some people have got lots and lots of confidence. Think, oh, my songs are great. Do you know what I mean? But that's for me. I'd probably just be a bit more confident, be more proud of what you've done or what you do.
That's a great message.
Believe in it a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a
I think
great
that's one bit of advice I give myself. Oh, and go out with more girls when I was younger.
I'm sure
because
you had a
when you
shortage of that.
When you get past 45, you become invisible to women. You just become invisible. You walk past and you look back and they're gone.
Yeah.
You used to get, when you're younger, they go, oh, yeah.
We're going to get you a T-shirt that said, I'm in the Hollies.
Then it's just not going to count, is it? It's not going to count if you start using that caper.
Fair. Not earned on
Let's say if
paper.
I've got £1 million in the bank. It's
Yeah,
just not going to really count.
Ooh, hi, Peter. Yeah. Rachel, who comes to us from Tennessee, and Rachel has some of the best handwriting I've ever seen.
Wow.
It's quite lovely. Rachel, what do you think has changed in the music industry that artists don't cover one another's songs as much anymore as they used to?
I don't know. I was thinking how glamorous. Rachel from where?
Tennessee.
Yeah, it's like better than Mary from Blackburn sort of thing.
Rachel from Tennessee. And it's Rachel's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Rachel.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to
He
you.
just mumbles. He doesn't know the words. He just mumbles. And Peter doesn't know the first line, so we can't get there. I'm sorry. But you guys did, back in the day, you guys did a whole Dylan album, did you not?
Yeah, we did. I mean,
a whole album to him.
Yeah, we used to write songs, but if there was nothing around that was really appealing to us, we sort of go around the publishing houses and listen to hundreds of songs, and every now and then, like, for instance, He Ain't Heavy Is My Brother. That came out of a publishing house. Someone, I went in to hear a load of songs, and as I'm going out the door, he says, well, it's not for you, but there is one song you might want to hear. And he played a really strange demo of He Ain't Heavy Is My Brother, and I said, yeah, that'll do.
It's just that easy.
Wasn't it the same time when, was it the Elton John song as well you heard? At the same time? Was it the same time?
Before Elton John was famous, yeah, he used to hang around the same publishing houses in London. He was a great friend. And he actually, as a session musician, played on quite a few of our recordings. In fact, the pianist on He Ain't Heavy Is My Brother is Elton John. As a session.
It's a cool tidbit for you, by the way.
Yeah, and he did a few other things. But I went into Dick James, who was publishing his songs, and he played your song. And again, I said, yeah, that's I would love that, you know. And they said, well, the American record company want to sort of release it. It'll probably do nothing, so, you know, you could take it over then. But it happened, of course. So.
It did something, yeah.
So your song could almost have been our song, not his song.
Don't you think the music business has changed a lot with the fact that people now seem to want, or they get music for free? They sort of have Spotify, and you can have any album you want, and people expect, they don't want to really pay for any music anymore. And I think that is a big change, because a lot of writers, people used to write songs obviously to make money, but I don't know. I suppose if you get one song and people do cover it, you make lots of money. I suppose that's still the same, but it has to be massive song to actually make money these days. Yeah. That's the big change, I think, with all this digital age. It's become less valued. People look at an album, they cherish it. I used to buy an album, I like the artwork, the cover, the of it. It's like a ceremony, a tea ceremony. You put it on, you listen to it with the big speakers. Now people listen to it on their phones, on an MP3, squashed. So you're not hearing any sound.
Squashed.
It's like... And how many people here, I don't know if anybody's like me at home, but I used to have some lovely big speakers, some lovely old Kef speakers like Darkwood, and it gets to the point we don't want those big, because we can get those little tiny Bose speakers now. You can hide them. So out of the front room goes the hi-fi, you know. So unless you're a really dedicated hi-fi person to have a room that you can have your big speakers in, that's lovely.
That's fair. You have always been a wonderful writer. Do you still write?
Not as much as before, no. And there's no, I don't know why. Really, Bobby's been doing some things with Peter, some good songs, but there's no real answer to that, really.
That's fair.
Unless the fact is, if you've got an outlet for it, if people really want to hear it, that's the thing, isn't it? Really. It's a reason to do it, and a desire to do it. I think it's tough.
Lynn wants to get down to the nitty-gritty. Lynn's from Georgia. She pulls no punches here. How old were you when you started playing in your first band? Peter, we'll start with you.
In my first band? Does that count as a school band?
Sure.
I was 13, 14, my first school band.
And what were they called? What were you called?
Oh, hang on. It was a Shakespearean thing. What was it called?
Where are
Oh, I thought it was kind of. Oh my God.
Romeo
I'll
and
get
Juliet.
back to you.
Okay.
On that.
Tony, how about you? How old were you when you first started playing in a band?
Maybe slightly younger than that. That actually was in a skiffle group.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you know they had a tea chest bass, and what do they call it? A washboard.
Oh, the washboard.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, in those days, because guitars were very rare, the American guitars hadn't even come over to England. So, I mean, I think I got in because I had quite a nice guitar, and there were about sort of 6 or 7 guitars in you know, and. But it was slightly continental touch. We were lay skifflettes.
Wow.
And
It's quite the name.
yeah, and we did a talent contest, similar to what you see going on these days, called a Canadian bloke, Carol Levis Discoveries. We did it, and we were hoping, you know, we get the call, but we haven't had the call. Actually.
Still not yet?
No, but I've been out quite a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. It's tough to answer the phone nowadays. We just have a few minutes left for you. I know we got to get you back downstairs to get ready for tonight. Ken from North Carolina. Most groups had a small degree of separation from another act. There's, you know, short degrees of separation. Band members, producers, A&R, etc. What were the Hollies' common links with other acts? Did you have a lot of? I mean, you mentioned Zeppelin earlier. You mentioned Elton John. Did you have any other close connections to other bands, the people that played with you and or in and out that later on did their own thing?
Well, if what you mean, I mean, when we were recording in London, we'd go down to, you know, the clubs that were happening, and you'd always see the Keith Moon of The Who down there and John Entwistle, and they'd sometimes get up on the stage and start playing. Keith Richards was always around. They always used to go to the same places, and the great camaraderie, you know, there was never any competition or anything. Everybody wanted to know where you'd been and what you'd been doing, and you know, and that's all. We didn't have many guest musicians at our recordings because we liked to do it ourselves. But at the time when Elton John, Reg.
Reg.
Yeah, we didn't have a keyboard player, so it was just natural to hire someone in. And I would say he's great. He's a great musician.
Well, I think we know that now.
Yeah.
What kind of legend are you when you just casually? Yeah, Reg stopped in for a few. Just Reg sat in on a few songs. Jim from Detroit. First, this actually plays off one of the first questions. First, thank you so much for being here. Was there a real inspiration for Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress?
I didn't write it. Alan did with a couple of friends. It's fictional, isn't it? It's fictional.
I think so. Wasn't there Brandy involved?
Who?
Brandy. Wasn't there, not the girl Brandy. I mean, wasn't there a little... Wasn't
The
there a
drink.
studio? I heard. I mean, this might be a myth story that I thought it was a bit of a session that went a bit long, and there's a bit of brandy involved, and it sort of came out of a frenzy of.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you're right. Yes, I don't remember, but that would make sense, wouldn't it?
It's fine, nor do you need to. Before we let you get out of here, I do want to ask, what is it like after? There was the question earlier about what it's like to have this kind of reception when you still perform so many years later. And I love to ask our acts that come on what it's like to be on a Flower Power cruise. You know you've got almost 2,000 people, paid their hard-earned money, their time, their energy to be here. They're madly in love with you. They are a phenomenal crowd, and I've had these people with me for years and years, most of them. What's it like to know you're on a cruise that's dedicated purely to the sounds that you helped create back then? Tony, I'll start with you.
Well, this is only the second one we've done. We should have done another one a couple of years ago, but
I know.
for obvious reasons, it kept being put back. Very fond memories. We did one in Aruba.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, everything's right about it. The theatre setting is great. The people who run it are great, including yourself. So it's, and it's also, which is important, if you're having an off night, it's a captured audience.
It is. Where are they going to go?
Okay.
How about you, sir?
Well, I'm very fond of people that are fanatical about things, that have made a lot of effort and to come here to do this. I mean, you've got to be a fanatic to. It's all right going and seeing a band, but to see band after band from that era, you've got to be completely nuts in a lovely, most possible way. That being said, that when you have extremes like that, and every stick has two ends. Yeah. There's a bad end to that. So when you get people that are so fanatical and nuts, it's scary because you want to do the best and you want them to have a good time. You don't. Yeah, you know what I mean? We want to be really good for you guys, and that pressure gives you the nerves that hopefully tonight when we go there and everybody enjoys it, then we'll have an even better time because it'll just go bang tonight. That'd be great.
Well,
Woo!
Lori, you can come see me when this ends in a few minutes. I want to thank you both, truly, for being on board and coming out here to do this with us and being here for our Q&A. I know it means the world to me, and I know it means everything to a lot of the people in this room.
Thank you.
And I count myself among this group as fans when I say I can't wait for tonight. I cannot wait for tonight.
Likewise.
Two wonderful shows.
Thank you for coming.
Do me a hand. Do me a favor, everybody.
Lots of love, guys. You lovely
for
people.
For the Hollies.
Join us for another groovy trip back in time on the 2023 Flower Power Cruise. We'll celebrate that unbelievable era with the music and artists of the Love Generation. Enjoy over 50 live performances from Herman's Hermits starring Peter Noon, Mickey Dolenz, Voice of the Monkees, the Yardbirds, the Buckinghams, the Grassroots, the Fifth Dimension, the Family Stone, the Cowsills, the Manfreds, Big Brother and the Holding Company, cruise host Peter Asher, and many more surprises to come. Get to know these artists like never before at over 25 celebrity interactive events, including panel discussions, artist Q&As, game shows, and so much more. Don't miss this music festival at sea, sailing aboard the luxurious and newly renovated Celebrity Summit. Departing from Miami, March 23rd, 2023, this 7-day trip will stop in the beautiful ports of Belize City, Cozumel, and Costa Maya. Let your freak flags fly as we go back to the days of bell-bottoms, peace signs, and more, with special themed events and costume parties. Relive those memories of the 60s with your Flower Power Cruise family for another incredible week of good music and happy vibes. The Flower Power Cruise sells out earlier every year, so don't wait. You don't want to miss the grooviest trip at sea. Plus, check out our 70s rock and romance cruise sailing March 16th to 23rd, 2023. Sail these two trips back to back, and you'll receive even more incredible savings.